Hello, it is Sean Kaempf Book Club back again. Now let's get into this. We are reading off with the Land of Stories, and we are continuing on. Let's get it. Stamina. Do you have any secrets for staying in shape, or how you keep your energy up? As you get older, it's important to select the shape you most identify with. And as you can see, I've chosen a squash, Mr. Bailey teased. When it comes to maintaining a good energy level, I simply make the most out of the 4 hours a day I'm awake. A cheeky grin spread across the Arthur's face, and the audience roared with laughter. They were pleased to hear him speak of the same trademark wit he wrote with. We're also joined tonight by Mr. Bailey's family, Mr. Quinn said, and gestured to the people sitting in the front row. Thank you for sharing your father and grandfather with us, Mr. Bailey. I'd be happy to, Mr. Bailey said. That's my older daughter, Elizabeth, her husband, Ben, and their daughter, Charlie. Next, we have my son, Matthew, his husband, Henry, and their boys. What? Aiden and Grayson. Okay. Last but not certainly least, my daughter, Carrie, and her husband, Scott. Their children, Brayton, Sammy, and Levi. As you can see, they all adopted a bunch of their good-looking, couldn't possibly share my DNA. The audience chuckled and gave the author's family a warm round of applause, forcing them to stand and wave bashfully. We were very saddened to hear of your wife's passing earlier this year, Mr. Gwynn said. As most of our audience knows, Mr. Bailey's wife, Brene Campbell Bailey, was also an accomplished writer and served as the United States Senator for 24 years until her retirement. Would you believe your middle school sweethearts? Mr. Bailey said with a smile. As far as I'm concerned, that was the first and only mistake she ever made. How long were you married? Mr. Quinn asked. 52 years, Mr. Bailey said. She insisted on finishing her master's degree before marriage and publishing her 5th book before starting a family. I'm not surprised, Mr. Quinn said. The late senator was a major advocate for women's rights. Yes, but I must clarify. Bree was never late for anything, the author said with a laugh. She never did absolutely everything on her own time, and her death was no exception. But in my family, we don't say died or passed away. We say returned to magic. It suits her much better. Because before she returned to magic, my wife hid thousands of notes in her home for me to find after she was gone. Not a day goes by I don't discover a post-it note reminding me to take my medicine or eat breakfast. Magic indeed, Mr. Quinn said. Magic indeed. You were born and raised in Crest, California. Is that correct? Yeah, that's right, Mr. Bailey said with a nod. And what a different world it was. Paper came from trees, cars ran on gasoline, and caffeine was illegal. Was practically the Dark Ages. Can you remember the first person who inspired you to write? The moderator asked. It was my 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Peters, the author said. At first we didn't see eye to eye. She thought her classroom was a place for education. I thought it was a great place for naps. A year later, she became principal of the middle school and read some short stories I had written for my English class. Mrs. Peters saw potential in my writing and planted seeds in my head. I'll always be so grateful to her. I dedicated one of my books to her, but I can't recall which one. It's Fairy Taleopia for the Literary Journey. Shouted an excited little girl in the back row. Oh yes, that's the one, Mr. Bailey said, and scratched his head. You'll have to be patient with me. My memory has been on vacation since the early 1700s. These days, I'll pick up a book and read the whole thing without realizing I wrote it. Speaking of which, let's talk about your remarkable writing career, Mr. Quinn said. As I said before, you published more than 100 books over the course of 5 decades. Among those are the Starboardia sagas, the adventure of Philip Boy Mysteries, the Galaxy Queen Chronicles, the Siblings graphic novels, and most notably, the Fairytopia series. The crowd cheered the loudest at the mention of Mr. Bailey's fantasy series, Fairy Taleopia. The author's 6th book franchise was the most successful and acclaimed publication of his career. The series had been translated into 50 languages and was sold in over 100 countries, and had helped improve children's literacy around the world. Fairy Taleopia books had also been adapted into several major motion pictures, a dozen television shows, and countless items of tacky merchandise. Although the majority of your work has been bestsellers and critical hits, you're most known for... Oh shoot, hold on. You're most known for writing Fairy Taleopia, Mr. Quinn said. What is that special ingredient that makes the series